Hello and welcome. I am Dr. Lara May, a clinical pharmacist specializing in functional medicine, as well as a certified yoga teacher and Reiki master. I run a truly integrative health coaching practice encompassing functional medicine lab testing, yoga and meditation, and a sprinkling of Reiki energy medicine. Join me here on Light Body Radio to break through your health plateau and come into alignment with your natural vitality. Hello and welcome to Light Body Radio. I am your host, Dr. Lara May, and this is the first episode of Wellness Illuminated for 2025. And I am so excited for a new year and to have you here with me. So welcome, welcome. Let's get started. I wanted to start the year off with a super foundational concept and tool set for you. And so we are going to talk about mind organization because you can't really be as optimally successful at reaching your goals, reaching those New Year's resolutions if you made them for yourself, if your mind isn't organized. And the word organized means to arrange into a structured whole. And so if you think about it, we are the creators of our whole life. No matter what, we create it. Even if we're unaware that we are creating it, we're still creating it. And so our mind is definitely a piece of that. And our thoughts definitely factor into that whole as well. So we all know that our brain is filled with thoughts, thousands and thousands of them every single day, both conscious and unconscious. And just imagine if you could put all of your thoughts into one room, how crowded that would be. And would that be very productive? Probably not. They would probably all be talking at once. Maybe some would be trying to yell over the others. Maybe there might even be some pushing and shoving going on. And because this is how, our monkey mind behaves and how the thoughts in our monkey mind behaves. And then you have sort of like the hoity-toity of the conscious mind over here judging the unconscious mind people. And so you can imagine what a situation we have inside of our brains with all of these thoughts, both conscious and unconscious. So it's to our best interest to get these things organized and under control. So we have the repetitive and programmed thoughts that serve us that don't necessarily, need to be deliberate. And what are those? So those are like the ones that tell you to breathe in and out, to put one foot in front of the other, how to walk, get out of bed in the morning, those types of thoughts. So those are pretty automatic and they don't necessarily need organization because those are the ones that literally just help us function and move through the basics of our being, of our existence in this life and on this planet. But the repetitive and programmed thoughts that don't serve us do need to be organized. And think of them as the thoughts that are stuffed away at the back of the closet. They seem harmless because you don't really know that they're there or what's in there. You aren't really paying attention to them. But these thoughts are continuously creating unwanted emotions in the background. And that's really what's running your day-to-day, your reactions, your actions, and your results. And so we need to pull all of these thoughts into our foremind, into the consciousness, into our forethought, and actually make decisions about them, become conscious of them. And so we need to start asking ourselves, is this thought serving me? Do I really want it? And is it current or outdated? And I also like to ask, is this thought even mine? Like, did I pick this up from someone else, maybe a parent or friend or something, cultural, like in the news or in school? Like, is this something that's even mine, or did I pick it up along the way and just, internalize it and not even, be not even aware of it at the time? So, we're going to use these same three questions as we go through the rest of this episode because I do want to dig into the model. And I'm sure you've heard me talk about this if you've listened to this show much at all. And the model is a framework from which we can really start to not only organize our minds, but organize our life. And so, we're even going to break it down into the individual aspects of the model today, too. So, the model is a framework. It's circumstances, thoughts, feelings, actions, results. So, if you were working through a model for yourself to solve a problem or to uncover the thoughts behind an emotion or to uncover, your actions behind a certain result that you maybe want or don't want, you would get out a piece of paper and you would, on the left side, you would write from the top to the bottom, CTFAR: circumstance, thought, feeling, action, result. So you would, whatever your circumstance is, you would put that in there. That's factual. And we're going to go into this too a little bit, and then below that, you would put your thought about that circumstance. And then what is your feeling when you have that thought? So all feelings come from thoughts. And then your actions come from your feelings. So whatever you're feeling is going to determine how you show up, what you do or what you don't do. Those are your actions. And then from there, from your actions, you get results. And so that's the basic, quick and dirty gist of it. So back to our thoughts. You have thoughts that are conscious, and these are new thoughts that you wouldn't think on purpose, especially this time of year. So, what are some thoughts that you want to think on purpose? Like, I am healthy, I am happy, I am whole, or I am successful in my business or your job or whatever you do for a living. Or maybe it's just that you want to be happy in what you do. So, so whatever it is that you want to think on purpose. And then think about the things that you are thinking that maybe you're not on purpose. And oftentimes, these are the judgments that we have about daily things or thoughts about the present or even thoughts about the future. And these are thoughts that are like sort of on that borderline, like we might be aware of them, we might not be, or we might be just aware of them enough to know that they're there, but we don't realize that we're not consciously choosing to think them. So depending on how much thought work you've done in the past, you might be coming to this from, a various levels of awareness. And wherever you are, it's totally okay because we all started at that beginning point at some point, right? And so some of these thoughts might be very deliberate and very useful, or they might be more like daydreaming and indulgent, which is also fine. That can be helpful. Um, and you definitely want to organize these thoughts on purpose. So ask yourself the three questions, even when you're daydreaming, because those daydreams can turn into actual results and things that you want. So it's important to move those from the daydream into something on purpose. So is this thought serving me? Maybe you're dreaming about starting your own business, or maybe you're dreaming about being independently wealthy. And what will it take to get you to the point of from where you are now to in the independent wealth? It's okay if it starts as a daydream, but eventually you're going to need to bring that into something that's on purpose. So do I really want it? And is it current or outdated? And then if it's applicable, you can also add the question, is this mine? Or where did I pick this up from? So the more aware you are of your thinking, the more you can make conscious choices about how you want to think. Being organized is the best way to manage your mind at the highest level. So if you really want to be operating at your highest level possible, then you're going to need some organization. And this starts with what is between our two ears in our mind, in our brain. So you will notice that with all the work that you're going to do The first step is always becoming aware. And because you make decisions, even based on those three questions, on your awareness. And then you get to choose what you get to let go of, what you don't want, and or what you want to keep and what you want to create and what you want to move forward with. So step number 1 is becoming aware. So I'm becoming aware of what you're thinking. And then step number 2 is asking the 3 questions. Is this thought serving me? Do I really want it? Is it current or outdated? And then make a decision. Keep it or let it go. And then from there, you get to create from you what you want. If you let it go, then that's an action. And if you keep it, then that's an action. But from there, you get to decide, okay, I've kept it, now what? Or okay, I've let it go, now what? And you also get to fill in those blanks. And so the next piece of this is that to step out of the mess of our busy brains, then we need to be able to look at it from an observer or an eavesdropper's perspective. So then we can sort of make decisions almost kind of outside of ourselves, like detached from the monkey mind. And so it's a very similar process. So you can use the same process for organizing anything in your life. So once you get the hang of it, what's starting with your mind, then you can extrapolate it out into your life, your home, your career, your finances, whatever it is. So when it comes to the mind, the best way, again, to start with this awareness that we spoke about a little bit prior is with eavesdropping and then the thought download. And so you can call this like the observer or the eavesdropper, whatever. I also like to call it, when we're examining those thoughts, the objective detective, because I don't want you to judge yourself. I don't want you to insert judgments into this. This is really just about examining what's there and then deciding, what am I keeping, what am I letting go, and moving forward, instead of, there's no name calling here of yourself. So that's a big no judgment. So, but being the observer or the eavesdropper on yourself is also a skill to be developed. So it's okay when you first start doing this. If you're not that good at it, or, it's totally fine, because the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it and the more practice that you'll have. So it's very hard to organize anything from within the mess. It's like, especially, I don't know if you've ever had the experience of like walking into a room that is completely just either super, like a tornado ran through it, and or maybe almost like a pack rat's room that is just stuffed to the brim from the roof to the floors to all the walls with stuff. It is so hard to start organizing from within any of that mess, right? Any of you out there that can relate to that? So what do? We need to step out of the mess so you can have a look at it and then start making decisions. So you can say, okay, well, we'll start with this corner over here, and, like however you decide to approach it. Or if it's just like a tornado went through it, okay, well, we need to like start putting things in piles and then going through the piles. So your brain and your mind is very similar. So you have to look at it from sort of the bird's eye view to make a decision about where to start. And then you can infuse some organization. So when you are in your brain, you are at the mercy of your thoughts. And it's very difficult to recognize that everything going on in there is actually a choice. So first, watch yourself think, and you have to shift from merely thinking to thinking about your thinking without judgment, remember? And it's a subtle shift, but I want you to try it now. So right now, what are you thinking about? Yes, you might be listening to me, but I'm sure you're thinking about something else at the same time. Most people operate this way. So once you answer the question, now notice that you had to pause. In order to answer the question, you did have to pause to shift that perspective, to shift your awareness. So this is a really important step to take and a really important awareness to have that um, you want to become the observer, the eavesdropper before you do your thought download. So a lot of times clients will write their thought download as a journal entry or almost a letter. But when they do this, they're writing the whole time and they're filled with the emotion of the story that they're telling. And this is often, how, especially when I first start working with clients, how it goes when I ask them to do a thought download. Instead of a list of thoughts, it's the story. So, what I want you to get in the habit of doing is when you go to do your thought download, it's not just about getting it out of your mind and onto paper, but it also is a way that puts these thoughts into a way that is objective for what they are. Again, so no judgment, no story. Um, so you are not thinking your thoughts. You shift to observing your thoughts and then write them down. So, anytime you are overwhelmed with thoughts and emotions and you do a thought download, you can then simplify it and organize it within seconds if you have this practice. So, writing down facts is the best tool for organization. So now I want to talk about the circumstance line of your model. So circumstances should be fact-based only. They're not long, messy stories. They're not complicated and confusing. They are one simple fact. So first, I want you to make a list of the facts of your life. What are big facts as they apply to your past, present, and future? This list will be clean, minimal, and will feel uncluttered, hopefully for you. And then I want you to practice pulling facts from your thought download. So anytime you are overwhelmed with thoughts and emotions, I'm going to say it again, do a thought download. You can then simplify and organize it within seconds with this practice. It can take a huge mess and straighten it right out for you, putting everything in its individual place. So write only the facts. Facts are things that everyone agrees on. Facts are devoid of adjectives or adverbs. They have no drama, no emotion, and they are minimalism for the brain. They leave one dish on the table and one fork in the drawer. This sort of, if you understand that metaphor. So facts provide space and room to breathe. So now that you have your facts, in your circumstance line, now comes the time for the thought organization. And with so many thoughts per day, we have to get a closer look in order to get organized. So we do that with the download. And we take each thought and apply the questions. Is it serving me? Do I really want it? Is it current or outdated? And these questions do not apply to the circumstance or the situation. They only apply to the thought. So when asking these questions, make sure you have a sentence in mind, not just any problem that you're dealing with that you aren't recognizing as a thought. For example, let's say you had a fight with your spouse about your kids staying up late and you thought he was rude and dismissive. So you're not asking these questions about your husband's behavior. You're asking these questions about the thought he was rude and dismissive. So does that thought he was rude and dismissive serve you? So just to review, the circumstance is that you and your husband had a disagreement about the kids staying up late. Your thought was he was rude and dismissive. And so does that thought serve you? Do you really want that thought? And is the thought current or outdated? And once you ask these questions about your thinking, you can then decide to eliminate it or keep it. And keep going until you covered all the thoughts in your thought download. If you need to bring in new thoughts to practice, say goodbye to the thoughts you've been thinking and start creating and practicing the ones you want to think. Keep straightening up your brain of thoughts like you would a room that you want to keep clean and organized. The room gets dusty and messed up just like your brain, and you need to organize it regularly. So that's why we do thought downloads on the daily, at least weekly, ideally, but preferably on the daily, so that you can start to manage your mind and get an idea of what's going on up there. So we can also do this with our feelings. And a lot of us haven't probably ever even thought of feeling organization, but it again, it simplifies it. So you're either having a positive emotion or a negative emotion, right? And when we understand that our life is 50-50, we can't be completely happy all the time, and we're gratefully not going to be completely miserable all the time. So it should be about half and half throughout our life. You don't have to judge each emotion as you organize it. You simply make a note, again, the objective detective. So don't get freaked out or upset when the dishes get dirty. You know that's just part of the deal. The dishes are clean and then they get dirty, and then they are clean and then they get dirty, you know? And so we can become unexasperated by the dishes when we decide that we understand the cycle and that's just part of life. But when we let the dishes sit in the sink and fester and they start to get gross and smelly, then this can become a problem if it's continued to be avoided. And so such is life with our feelings. If we continue to ignore them and let them fester, then they become a problem. So I want you to start to also take note of your feelings. And when you become aware of what you're feeling and you connect that directly back to a specific thought, now you're starting to get somewhere. You're starting to really build that awareness and that understanding. And then the power of the choice of, do I want to keep this and is this serving me, really get levels up, because now you know that, well, this thought led to this feeling and I can organize it. I can clean it up. I can completely, throw it out if I don't want it. And that's, I think, where we really start to make breakthroughs and changes in our life. So some questions obviously that you can ask about feelings is this feeling positive or negative, and what was the thought that caused it? And once you've identified it, you can follow the same process with your other thoughts to manage and organize your emotions deliberately. So now we move on to the actions and organizing our actions. And this is where a lot of us sort of start to stray off. We sort of lose the plot, so to speak, because we think that we can fall into one big pile of busy. And when our actions aren't organized, that oftentimes is the reality of our life. We're just busy all the time. We're reactive, and every single thing that pops up has to be addressed, or something has to happen. There's a to do. And so you're running around and you're trying to get it all done, but you don't have a plan and nothing's very deliberate, and you're just reacting, and you're, feeling without being aware, and, reaction, reaction, reaction. And the result of that is stress and chaos, right? So I want you to start thinking about actions in two different ways. One is actions fueled by positive emotions, and the other is actions fueled by negative emotions. And so many of our reactions and inactions are coming from unconscious negative emotions. And this is exhausting. And this is what's, really driving that stress and the inflammation that's happening in our body, right? Uh, Connecting it all back to our biology. We end up definitely with less than we want in terms of our results, for sure. So now remember that half the time we have positive emotions and half the time we're going to have negative emotions, and that's okay. If we're not paying attention and organizing our emotions, then we can't make the change to fuel ourselves in a different way with those positive emotions. So we need to consciously decide to fuel our lives well with things that energize us energize our body and our mind. So this organization is going to be that fuel for your mind to, again, provide clarity, help with motivation, and really help you decide and empower yourself to make those choices, what you want to keep, what you want to let go of, how you want to move forward, what are the actions, what are the results, what are you feeling, what are you thinking, you know, because you can address any of these from any angle that you want. You don't have to work through your model from the C all the way down to the R. If you want to start with the result, you can work your way backwards for sure. And sometimes that's a great way to do it, especially, you know, because that can really help you become clear about some different aspects and get creative. So I definitely encourage you, once you're in the habit of working with models, to then start working with them from different angles and different perspectives as well, because it'll also, let's see, help us when we're fueled by positive emotions, then we will be more consciously energized and more consciously fueled up. And this will allow us to get more done in a shorter amount of time. And you'll start to understand that you'll even start to become the watcher and observer of your brain and how your brain will pop back to that unconsciousness, to that monkey mind, and sort of start like messing with you if you think about it. Like you're in the rhythm, you're in the flow, you've been doing your models and you're aware and you're purposeful and deliberate, and then something will come up and you'll revert back to that unconsciousness and maybe that spiral or that spinning out of control. And you'll catch yourself and you'll say, wait a minute, I have tools and I have power here, and I don't have to go down that same old path that I used to. I don't have to fall back into that old cycle. I have the tools and the power and the choice to choose something different, to think something new, to feel something new, to have different actions, which will provide me new and different results. So I want to leave you with that here today on this beautiful day in January of 2025. Happy New Year, everybody. I hope that this episode provided you with some tools and some ways to think and approach life in a new way that will help propel you forward so that you can operate at your highest level of success. And I hope you bring this into the new year. If you have any questions, please reach out. I love fielding questions. And if you'd like for me to, speak about anything that really lights you up and focus on a topic, please let me know in the comments or on the socials at Dr. Lara May on Instagram, Facebook, and X, and then I am on TikTok, and that is Dr. Lara May FXNMED. So I hope to see you out there on the socials, and have a fabulous new year, everybody.